What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. So, I want to come through and talk about this situation with Drake and his son and how people are reacting to the way that his son looks. And as you may or may not know, Drake recently showed a picture of his son as well as the mother of his son, his baby mama, right? And some people were a bit like, oh, I guess I don't know. I think they expected his son to look a certain way. I guess I don't know why, but I guess they expected his son to look blacker than what his son looks. And well, for one, the mother is white, right, and also a porn star, which I'm going to get into a little bit later in this video as well. The mom is white, right, and the father, Drake, is part black, part white. So, assuming that Drake would have at least 50% black genes and 50% white genes, while the mother has 100% white genes, and, you know, the genes taking a certain amount from Drake and a certain amount from the mother to make the son, basically, the kid is probably about around a fourth black and three-fourths white, approximately. So usually when that happens, people tend to look whiter because whiter is more, it's the majority. Like Halsey, for instance. The singer Halsey, she's kind of like in that situation too. Like her father is biracial and her mom is white. So that's the reason why she is pretty much white passing, right? And it happens with a lot of biracials who have children with white people, like Halle Berry's daughter, Ben Harper's kids, um, Evan Ross's kids, right? Um, Paula Patton's son, and etc. Right? But I think basically black folks, because that's really who I'm really concerned about in when it comes to this situation here. Black folks pretty much, being color struck as usual, right? Continuing to be color struck yet again, right? And as well, we already know the agenda, how it goes in the black community, right? In the community where pretty much when it comes to offspring and children and whatnot, we want the sons to be darker while we want the daughters to be lighter. And again, this is the colorist folks in the community, right? And, to be fair, some colorist folks just want everything to be lighter altogether. And that's a thing too. But yeah, that is the agenda at play here when it comes to like the colorist in the black community, right? Just in case you didn't know, right? But, I kind of just found it, I know this situation with Drake and his baby mom was kind of like an accident situation. I don't think Drake planned to have a kid with his porn star baby mama, but nevertheless it happened, and it happened in part because of irresponsibility on Drake's part. Just be real, and really it's like, Drake, you had so many options, but that's what happens. That's just a part of life. But I'm like, I mean, I know it wasn't purpose, but I'm just saying, like, weak ass niggas have kids with, women like strippers, porn stars, etc. All right, whores, skank sluts. I'm not one to judge. I'm not judging. I'm just saying. So, back to the topic though. Um, so, as I mentioned before, like there's the whole agenda in the black community and whatnot. And I'm just going to pose this question: if Drake had a daughter, right, as well as Chris Brown, right? Because I put Chris Brown in the title of this video too. If, but really, it's more so about Drake though. But if Drake had a daughter, if this was his daughter, and the daughter came out looking pretty much the same phenotype, right? Do you think people would be really questioning things as much? It'd probably be like, oh, black women come in all different shades and colors. Black women are the most versatile women on the planet. She can be from the blackest of the black to the whitest of the white. Yes, black woman. Yeah. Black women are everything. Right? Just because of some, color variation, right? Um, so do you think that this situation would have happened and people would have been questioning Drake's child if he had a daughter? Probably not as much, right? Probably not as much. Um, and a question. Do you consider Drake, and I'll put Chris Brown's son in here, and children really in here as well. Do you consider Chris Brown's and Drake's, like their respective children, to be black? But really, Chris Brown, he already, Chris Brown is just a wild ass color struck nigga on the loose. To be real, you know. So Chris Brown already, putting it out there that his son is white. It's a hashtag white boy, right? God damn, Chris. Woo. But do you consider their respective children to be black or perhaps non-black? Or perhaps maybe like part black? I mean, that would be technically correct. They are at least part black. But a good question to throw out there. Do you consider Drake's son to be black? And do you consider Chris Brown's son as well as Chris Brown's daughter to be black? Now, when it comes to the daughter, that's when folks be like, well, black women, they come in all different shades and colors and variations. And, the black woman is the most beautiful, versatile woman on the earth. And, this is the beauty of a black woman, variety. Right, then love to push that shit, that variety shit when it comes to black women, though. Right. I don't know. And some black women, really black women, some of them be pushing it themselves. But that's a whole nother story, though. Me personally, I consider their children to be mixed, perhaps mixed white passing. I don't consider their children to be black. I think if they wanted black children, they should have had their children with black women. Strongly, preferably, identifiably black women, right? Women who are black from a distance, women who are darker than a paper bag. I said it. If you want your children to be considered black, I mean, it only makes sense. It's like, how you gonna have a child without a black woman and the child not be considered black? I mean, and the child be considered black. How does that work? And we can just kind of go into this as well. Do you consider Drake and Chris Brown to be black? If they were women, then it'll be, of course, undeniably so. But since they're dudes, they're men, the standard's a little different for some reason. Why is that? But do you consider Chris Brown and Drake to be black? Me personally, I do consider both Chris Brown and Drake to be black men, just lighter skinned black men. But, that is me. Perhaps I'm coming from a biased perspective, you know. But I can understand some people being like, well, no, you know, especially when it comes to Drake, since Drake is like directly mixed. He has like a black father and a white mom. So I could understand that, right? Whereas like, well, if you don't have a black mom, how are you gonna be black, right? And some people like if you don't have a, but that's the thing. Some people consider it like, well, if you don't have a black daddy, you ain't black, you know. And I think that if you perhaps don't have a black mama and a black daddy, both of them, then you ain't black. I think that's something to be considered too. But Drake, that's his situation. Chris Brown's situation is a little different. Chris Brown isn't at least like directly mixed. Chris Brown would be considered light skinned versus mixed, like multi generational mixed versus first generational mixed. That's something to be addressed and um, talked about, or acknowledged. I'll say, multi generational mixture versus first generational mixture. And when it comes to Chris Brown, his mom is mixed, his dad is black. So for many people consider that like the offspring of a mixed person who's part black, part white, and a black person to be black, at least in the United States, right? I know there's a term, um, perhaps coming from the Caribbean. I'm not sure. Maybe. I think so. I know in Spanish it's grifo, and I think Cubans say like mulaton, and that refers to the offspring of like basically like a black person or African and a mixed person are, as they call, like mulatto, right? Um, and I think in English, the term they use in the Caribbean is like grief, a griff or something to that effect. Um, and I noticed that when it comes to that particular mating selection, or for lack of a better phrase or word, there's no really term for it. And I think for us in the United States, it's a bit different because of like the one drop rule. But yeah, that's something that I just wanted to put out there as well. I don't think many people know about that term, but you can look it up though. Um, I read about it recently. I heard of it before, like a long time ago, but I read about it or came across it recently while reading like this article, or either like an article or either a chapter in a book, one of the two. I got it from JSTOR, but it was Africa in the Caribbean. The article's in Spanish. But they had talked about that, like, you know, the offspring of a mixed person and black person, what they call it. um, but back to, Chris Brown and Drake being black or non-black or whatever. So me personally, I consider them both to be black men, but some people would argue against that, especially against Drake, because he's like directly mixed. Chris Brown to a lesser extent, to a much lesser extent. I think many people tend to consider Chris Brown to be black. As well, I think Chris Brown has more black features as well. Um, Low key, Chris Brown wishes he was, uh, you know, had exotical features, quote unquote, right? Um, as quiet as it's kept. All right. um, and I think that's partially why Chris Brown kind of gravitates to the women that he gravitates towards, because I think when it comes to some lighter skinned black men, not all, it's a segment. Um, I noticed something when it's like when they don't fit into like the light skin stereotype. Like, oh, having like loosely textured hair or light eyes, something like that. It's like they gravitate toward women who have those features that they want themselves. So like, you know, they may gravitate towards, the women with like, the loosely textured hair or the lighter eyes, because those are the features that they wanted themselves and think that they should have had themselves. I did a video about this a while ago. But if we haven't noticed by now, black genes can be bred out. They can be washed out. People say, oh, the black gene is the dominant gene, and, I'm not saying that black genes aren't strong and robust and all that good stuff. But I think some people take it a bit too far and make it seem as if blackness is just like, like if Halsey has a child with G-Eazy, people thinking the way that some people are acting, they're thinking that this child will come out looking like Kuta Kinte, right? Or like Wesley Snipes, Flavor Flav, the king of South Sudan, God damn it, or Sudan. No, it don't work like that, right? Pretty much, it's just going to the black genes that Halsey has, if she were to have a kid with Jeezy, would just go into whiteness. Pretty much, the kid would be what, an eighth white? Sorry, an eighth black and 7/8 white. Come on, black people. And if black genes were just so dominant as people think they are, we wouldn't really be able to tell the difference between people who are fully black and people who are part black. We wouldn't be able to tell the difference. They would look exactly the same, or at least more or less the same. We can tell when someone is fully black, when they, straight from the motherland, right? Versus when they're, perhaps maybe like a fourth non-black, but 3/4 black. We can kind of tell that too. And when it comes to like 50, half and half, we can definitely tell. And when it comes to 25% black and 75% other, we can tell that especially. All right. And I just feel like people, I don't know, people just don't use the common sense that they should have. And maybe they don't have it, I guess, to use it. Or maybe they have it, but they're just not using it. Right. And one more thing I want to talk about before I end this video, and that is the criticism of children. And especially when it comes to like criticism involving like low-key colorism at play too. Like, so are kids off limits or not when it comes to criticisms and, colorist criticisms? Are they off limit, or is it, just fair game? Let me know. I want to know. But I noticed, like, when it comes to like, lighter skinned children being criticized, it's like that seems to be acceptable when we're negatively criticizing lighter skinned children, right? It's like, oh well, all light skinned kids aren't good looking or beautiful, and okay, fair enough. But I noticed when it comes to criticisms of, say, darker skinned children, then it's like, well, that's wrong. We shouldn't criticize darker skinned children who perhaps are aesthetically deficient, right? Like when that girl went on Instagram Live, Facebook Live, and had her son. Y'all remember that video from a while back? It was like on Facebook, and she went live on Facebook, and she was talking about how ugly her child was, her son, who was like brown skin or dark skin, and folks was triggered by that, and fair enough, rightfully so. But and people came in and swooped in, and you know came at the mom and dragged her. Fair enough. Um, but I feel like when it comes to like that, I feel like, okay, we got folks caping for, the dark skin um, boy, the dark skin male infant, which is cool. That's fine. And, we got folks caping for, say, the black boy that was in the H&M ad, or H&M ad, who was wearing that sweater or hoodie that said, I think like coolest monkey in the jungle or something like that. Folks cape for him, which is cool. But then I feel like when it comes to like, say, just recently what happened, that 4-year-old girl who had came through and referred to her own self as ugly. I'm not saying that people didn't come through and try to defend and things like that, because they did, but I feel like they were telling her to toughen up, I think, or she needs to develop thicker skin at like 4 years old. Something to that effect, right? Like, oh, she just got to, toughen up and be prepared for what's going to happen, right? At 4 years old, while folks want to cape for Shan Boodrum, who's a grown-ass woman, because Alani said some off-color joke or whatnot. It's like, folks, I don't know. It's hard I can't really articulate it as well as I would like to, but pretty much I just feel like it's like certain groups of people are given and allotted empathy and sympathy, while other groups of people aren't as much. And I'm talking about within the community. Why is that? I don't know. It seems like when it comes to certain groups of folks, pretty much, let me just say, when it comes to certain groups of folks, like say darker skinned males and lighter skinned females, it seems like, oh, we have to have sympathy and empathy for them and their plight or whatever the fuck they're going through, which is fine. I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but then it's when it's like, oh, when the person is like lighter skinned male or darker skinned female, then it's like, well, the empathy and sympathy, right. Like, then we got like 1,001 excuses, right? And I just find that to be really interesting. It's like, why? Why is that? And back to the whole light-skinned children ugly versus dark-skinned children ugly, whatever. Darker-skinned children, like, are they off limits while lighter-skinned children are fair game? I don't know. Even like say like Blue Ivy, like she's receiving like a lot of criticism. Like she a goddamn grown ass woman. She getting dragged like she damn near like a 40-year-old woman. While folks want to coddle, say like a Kylie Jenner. I don't know. But I'm going to bring this video to a close. So thanks for watching, y'all. What do you think in the comment? Tell me what you think in the comment section. Until the next video, adios and goodbye for now.